Had a lot to take care of these last few weeks. I've been struggling a lot. This is picking up where we left off. I got another one for us today, too, hopefully. God stubbornly loves. I don't think it's stubbornly, but he was very patient in that time. Israel's many discretions caused God to change methods of discipline. Like humans missing the mark over and over again, it caused him to change. By reverting and probably leading them back to the same things they faced. Without reflection with what we endure, without learning, how do we change the track of our lives? So the severity of sin's weight. And in the Old Testament, they sacrificed animals, and by their blood, it was taught. Abhorred is a word I learned, and it is in the Bible a lot, and it was regarded with disgust or anger. Just because we suffer consequences doesn't mean he hates us. Just, we need to be accountable, right? We need to learn what he would have us probably from those instances. Most of our best memories are connecting to feelings of being loved and cared for. Maybe your grandmother would rub your back when you were sick as a kid. Maybe your spouse took care of extra chores while you were struggling at work. Maybe a friend sat with you and listened while you poured out grief or frustration. There are many ways people can make us feel loved. Share about a time when you felt especially loved or cared for. With my family, it was when I was taken in. My grandpa caring, my mom and dad loving the best ways they could. My cousins, the joy shared in unity. Their parents, the nature of their care. Alongside of the judgment and destruction foretold in the minor prophets, there is also a strong message of God's faithful love. Even though his people repeatedly betrayed him, God could not bring himself to break his covenant with them. Instead, he called them again and again to return to him and be completely restored by his love. Hosea 11 likely was written just before Israel fell to the Assyrians, when Baal worship was a regular practice in Israel. In the first 7 days, God described the past, present, and immediate future of the relationship with Israel. God's profound heartbreak and anger were evident as he compared his selfless love with Israel's rebellion and indifference. As a loving father, he called Israel out of the Egyptian slavery and into freedom. But instead of coming toward him, Israel moved farther away from him to worship false gods. I put what their habits picked up. Pharaoh having golden idols, Israel a calf aiding in their slavery. What they knew got them through. But God stooped down to teach Israel to walk, leading them with the law, but Israel ignored God, apparently thinking they had learned to walk on their own. The statutes and precepts for humanity instilled a foundation, the 10 Commandments did. And to not covet helps us to be a little bit happier, to not want what others got, but to be grateful for what we have ourselves. The desires can lead. We learned about that too, a little bit, to many other things. The metaphor shifts in verse 4 as God described how he cared for Israel like a beloved animal, leading them gently and removing their harness to allow them to rest and feed from God's own hand. Dependability was something that Israel solely relied on when they were delivered out of Israel, a hot, dry desert with nothing. Ever notice the relationships between humans and with animals, like a horse, feeling the emotions of people and very sensitive, or a bull, very anxious, but also peaceful until they become it? Philippians 4:6 says, "Be anxious in nothing, but in praise and thanksgiving all things." Coming from a guy that might have seen one up close, they're not actually that bad until you start standing at the head of them. But Israel eventually betrayed God, since their people refused to return to him. They would return to Egypt, in the sense that they would again be enslaved. This is time by the Assyrians. Verse 5. Because of Israel's lack of reverence and love for God, judgment was coming. We re-enter bondage with those we love to this day because of sin. We miss the mark all the time, and we don't address the relationships properly. But because of Jesus, the forgiveness, the confession, the reconciliation, and his word, we grow and we can move past all of that. We don't have to be haunted by anxiety or depression by addressing the roots of those things. There's a stem that's involved with both of those definitions, and it is worry, whether it be past or future, to live in the present because it is a gift. It was something I learned. What words or phrases in this passage show that God is heartbroken or angry? Well, his continued provision with a lack of care. The divine movements, like perhaps moving the Nile to drink, the rock, parting the seas, provision with a cloud through the desert, the manna from heaven that they fed on, with a lack of resources in Egypt. Through the desert, though it was hot and probably not very pleasing, they made it, and they got a deliverance from captivity into the promised land.